In this tutorial video, I'm going to show you how to solve rational equations. And we're going to start easy and work our way up to more difficult kinds of problems. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here's our first problem, and as you can tell, this is an equation with rational expressions. Rational just means it's a fraction. Now, this is a proportion, and to solve proportions, we simply cross multiply. So we are going to continue with that method. So I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply 4 times 5, and that's going to give me, that's going to give me 20. I'm going to have my equal sign here, and then I'm going to do the other cross product. Now, what you want to be careful of when you do a single term like this, x, multiplied by more than one term, like 2x minus 3, you want to make sure that you distribute the x to each term. So I'm going to do x times 2x, and that's going to give me 2x squared. And then I'm going to do negative 3 times x, which is minus 3x. So, with that being said, this equation doesn't really look like it's anything very practical. So what we want to do is try to get everything on the same side of the equal sign, particularly because I see three things. I see an x squared term, I see an x term, and I see a constant. And that tells me that I might be able to factor this. So that's our plan of attack. So let's go ahead and get everything on the same side of the equal sign. So I'm going to bring down the 2x squared and the minus 3x, and in order to move this 20, I'm going to have to subtract it. So that means this is going to be minus 20, and that is equal to nada. Alright, so now we're going to factor this, and because this right here is not a 1, we have to do our factoring by grouping process. So we're going to do 2 times 20, and that's going to give us 40. So now we need some factors of 40 that will get me a 3. So let's see, I've got 1 times 40, I have 2 times 20, I have 8 times 5, and I'm sure I've got a few more, but if you look here, this is going to be my choice. I need an 8 and a 5 to get me to 3. So the question is what kind of an 8 and what kind of a 3, or I'm sorry, what kind of a 5 do I need so that I can get to a negative 3? And so all we're going to do is we're going to rewrite negative 3 with an 8 and a 5. So that's going to be minus 8x plus 5x. And now let's just double check. Is negative 8 plus 5 negative 3? And the answer is yes, it does. So we're good. I'm going to bring down the minus 20 equals 0. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to group together the first two terms. So here and here. And now we're going to factor out what each binomial has in common. So between 2x squared and 8x, looks like there's a 2 in common as well as an x. And what's going to stay inside is x minus 4. Now, whenever you're unsure about this, you are welcome to distribute this back and see if you get 2x squared minus 8x, which we do. So now let's move over to the 5x minus 20. Between 5x and 20, all I've got is a 5. And what's going to be in parentheses is x minus 4. Now notice at this point in time, my binomials are identical. If you factor this correctly, this will always happen. So I'm going to bring down that binomial, x minus 4, and then I'm going to bring down whatever is left over, which would be 2x and plus 5. So now I have my two binomials, and I can now set them each individually equal to 0 and get my solutions. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say x minus 4 equals 0. So in order to solve this, I would add 4 to both sides, and one of my solutions is x equals 4. My other solution is going to be when I solve 2x plus 5 equals 0. I would subtract 5 from both sides. That would give me 2x equals negative 5, and then I would divide both sides by 2. So my other solution is -5/2. That's our first problem. Let's take a look at another. All right, problem number 2. Same situation, we have a proportion, and therefore we're going to cross multiply. So I'm going to do the first cross product here. I'm going to do -4 times x plus 2. So I'm going to show you another way of doing this if you don't want to distribute. You can say that this is -4 times x plus 2, like so. And that's going to be equal to the other cross product, which I will simply just multiply the 3 and the 5 together and leave the x plus 2. So 3 times 5 is 15, and then I have x plus 2. Now the reason why I did this is I've done problems like this a lot, and I have come to notice that there's a pattern. If these denominators are both here, okay, look down here when we set up this equation. I've got x plus 2 on the left and on the right. If that happens, they're going to cancel out. Nope, never mind, they won't. I'm sorry, I was thinking of something else. Forget what I said. All right, at this point in time, let's go ahead and distribute. So -4 times x, -4 times positive 2. That's going to give me -4x minus 8 equals 15x plus 30. So now all we want to do is combine like terms and solve for x. So I could add 8. This is not the only correct way of doing this, by the way. There are several different ways of doing this. And then I'm going to subtract 15x from both sides. And that gives me -19x equals 38. I then divide both sides by -19. And 19 is prime and will go into 38 twice, so that's going to be x equals -2. So that's problem number 2. All right, next problem. Once again, a proportion, we're going to cross multiply. And I promise, no confusion this time. All right, so I'm going to distribute the 5 to x squared and minus 1. So that's going to give me 5x squared minus 5. And that's going to be equal to, I'm going to get a blue color here, 15 times 2x is 30x. And 15 times 2 is 30. So now that I have everything, I'm going to search for a quadratic because I see an x squared term, I see an x term, and I see a couple constants. So hopefully I can combine everything and I'll be able to factor everything out. So I am going to keep 5x squared over here and subtract 30x, so that's going to give me minus 30x over here. And then I'm going to add 30 to both sides, so -5 plus 30 is going to be positive 25. All right. Now at this point in time you could do factoring by grouping, but it's not necessary. Notice that all of your coefficients are actually divisible by 5. So let's take a 5 out first, which will leave me with x squared minus 6x plus 5 equals 0. And now I have a nice quadratic in here that I can solve for. Before I do that, I am going to divide both sides by this 5, see if I can't get rid of him, which I can. So x squared minus 6x plus 5 equals 0, because 0 divided by anything is 0. And now what we're left with is a basic factoring problem. So x and x, factors of 5 that get me to -6 is minus 5 minus 1. I set each of these equal to 0, so x minus 5 equals 0. I would add 5 to both sides, so one of my solutions is positive 5. And x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1 to both sides. My other solution is 1. So there you go. That's going to conclude this tutorial because these are some very basic, easy kinds of solving rational problems. So please stay tuned for the next video, and that concludes this tutorial.